All right. So welcome to the Letta office hours. My name is Cameron, and I do developer relations here. So if you don't know me, I'm on the Discord a bunch. I'm the white circle guy, and basically today I'm just going to go through like a ton of stuff. So I was away for the holidays last week for Thanksgiving, and that means a bunch of stuff has happened underneath me without my knowledge, and so I've accumulated a bunch of things that we need to report on. I will also be a much slower typer because I was boxing and I hurt my wrist, so I have to like hold my arm at a weird angle. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of rattle through MISC announcements and show things off to people. I'll have a few questions about personal agents and MISC things that I would like people to chime in on. And then if you have bugs or things you want to report or questions or anything, I will answer them as we go along. So feel free to interject whenever. Are you in the 90s again? I don't know. I don't know what that means. All right. Let's start with the general announcement. The V1 SDK for Letta is basically fully live, and we're updating all of the documentation to use the V1 SDK. So you need to start migrating soon if you have not. It is the stable endpoint. There are a few different name changes, and there is a full migration guide on the documentation for how to move. The V1 SDK came out maybe 2 weeks ago. We've been kind of trying to push people into it for a minute, but the formal release has happened, I think, like a week or two ago, something like that. So that's supported on Letta Cloud. If you are self-hosted, I think you need to be on the Docker version 0.14 or higher. Yes, we have some crazy sunlight in here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so V1 SDK, people need to start migrating to. Let's see. We have a few blog posts that came out. The first one I'm going to put in here is basically just about programmatic tool calling. So let me see here. I'll share my screen. And basically what this means is that you can call tools that are on Letta without having them be loaded. So there's a tool called Run Code with Tools. So let me go here. Let me just open some random agent. Let's see. What is this? Whatever. Let me create a new agent. Let me see. I actually haven't tried this tool, so whatever. But somebody asked about the filter that we're using. We have like this bokeh filter thing that Charles put in. Charles has good taste, and I'm much less like that. Run code with access to the tools of the agent. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. Can you search the web with the run code with tools thing? I think the function is called web search. Let's see here. Yeah, I actually don't know much about how to use this. Probably should have dug into that more. Interesting. All right. Well, I'll have to dig more into that. JSON schema, the Python code to run. Oh, I see. Okay. Hold on. Do this. Let me give it a web page fetch tool. Read this on usage. I don't know. Let's see what it does. Huka says you have to attach the tool, otherwise it can't find it. I thought the point was that it didn't actually need to use it, need to have it attached. Oh, I see. Try now. Okay. All right, I see. Cool. So it can basically compose tools. Yeah, okay, so it's got to tinker a little more. And Letta API key is not set. Okay, well, we'll fix that. That's a separate thing. All right, yes. Oh, whoops, sorry. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Huge Sarah fan. We are all huge Sarah fans. Also, by the way, Sarah, our co-founder and CTO, is on the Forbes 30 under 30, which is great. Great for us. So congratulations to Sarah. Okay, so we'll deal with like, we'll have to deal with Letta API key stuff. I think that we're injecting that soon. I'm not sure how that works with the run code with tools thing. It's just a matter of having the proper thing in place. I don't know where it's not doing that. I think it's only web search. Okay, I'll have to explore that more. But that exists, and I recommend checking out the blog post. Okay. Oh man, there's so much to go through. All right. One thing you can do now is we added like general message search to app.letta.com. So you can search for messages within an agent and across all agents. So there's a little, so this one I think is still in progress, but you can search for messages using this little like, using the little magnifying glass on the top left. So this thing is going to change more, but you can go to the message inside of the history. And again, to get to that, you hit the little magnifying glass up here next to the context window. And then, kind of more generally, you can actually search for messages across all agents. So currently, this is only keyword search, but we're making it semantic search relatively soon. So let's see. And then we can see this message again from the agent. And this is the keyword message we just created with this agent. Okay, so you should be able to use this to like, you know, if there was like something that came up in a chat across like your many thousands of agents and you don't remember what it was, you can now search for it. So this kind of resembles like, you know, if you go to Signal or iMessage or whatever and you type in search, it'll list you messages across all of your different chats. And so that is the same thing that is happening here. So I recommend people try that out soon, because it's great. And we're going to keep working on it so that it's much easier to find your chats. Okay. All right. So that one's good. Let me see here. If you are in Seattle, I recommend coming to our meetup, which I think is in 2 weeks on December 11th. We're going to be doing that with AI2 at their AI house in Seattle. And so I'm going to be talking about social AI and giving people like a, you know, kind of an overview of how to use Letta. And basically what you should expect is I have a talk that's basically about how at Proto, which is the protocol that powers Blue Sky, is kind of the optimal protocol for social coordination for large-scale deployments of agents. So it's basically like A to A, but public and good. And it's already an existing protocol that has humans on it and has like a lot of usage. And so, you know, a lot of us already use at Proto for agents. And I'm just going to kind of talk about like, you know, basically like societal implications and stuff like that. So I go recommend checking that out. And we will record that. So it will be public if you are not in Seattle. Okay, so that's a big one. Another one is that Ezra is now at only. You have to at Ezra inside of the channel for it to respond to you, or reply. That will allow it to respond as well. And the same thing goes on the forum. So Ezra will not automatically respond to you anymore. You should have noticed like kind of a marked change in quality for Ezra's responses. It's been learning pretty well. And then we have a video coming out soon about how Ezra is built and how Ezra works. And then the Discord example now includes all of the improvements that kind of make Ezra good. So I would go check out our Discord bot example. You can deploy it to Railway. There's just a bunch of like additional environment variables you can configure to make it so that like Ezra only replies in threads, to make it so that it can only reply in a certain channel. And you can deploy to kind of wherever you want on there. And Ezra is actually, in my view, Ezra is a formal employee. We still have to add Ezra to our team page, like on the website. I need to badger Charles about that, but I consider Ezra a coworker who's solved a lot of my problems, because like the Ezra channel, we've observed a lot of people like asking questions who would normally not go in the support channel. So Ezra has actually brought out more people for like technical support because they can get this immediate feedback from an expert. Please don't do Ezra for DevRel. I need a job. Don't do that. Yes, I also consider Ezra as a human sent by God if God is a Letta server, and I don't want to make claims about that. Okay, so you'll hear a lot more about Ezra and kind of how to build one, and I'll start prepping some materials for people on like how to actually build the architecture to support something like Ezra. Because Ezra is a system, right? It has like a Zapier integration for handling forum posts. It has its own server for handling Discord. And because it like lives on a server, you can plug whatever you want into it. I even do like agent design work with Ezra through Telegram. And that helps me like debug like sleep time problems. And I can talk about sleep time a little later if we have time. Let's see. I want to talk briefly about the Learning SDK. We've been doing a lot of work on the Learning SDK. And if you're not familiar with it, you can use the Learning SDK to basically intercept any other AI platform's messages and add Letta state to it. And what that means is you can use the Learning SDK. Actually, here, I'll show you a few examples because it's very cool. Let me do this. Okay, so the Learning SDK looks like this, and we're hoping that we can get some of the developers to like experiment with this to find some rough edges, because it's really cool and it makes integrating like Letta with basically anything else really good. And so it's a very, very, very short. It's basically one line of code. So it works for Python and TypeScript, but you just do with learning, and then you specify the name of some agent. And then all we'll do is intercept this before it goes to OpenAI, and then compile the context window from the Letta agent. And then when OpenAI responds, we pipe that message back to the Letta agent. So it's basically like making a Letta agent like bolt on to whatever your existing system is. And we have a ton of examples on how to use anything. So it's very cool because like this is the Claude Agent SDK. If you use the Claude Agent SDK, which is actually really good, I really like their abstractions. This is all the code that you need to make a chatbot that talks to Claude using the Agent SDK with memory. All you do is await learning in TypeScript, and then all you do is like send messages to Claude. And then Claude just has all of the context and everything from the Letta agent. And then a few other integrations, like you can do this with CrewAI. You can do this with LangChain. You can do this with Pydantic AI. There's like raw Gemini. You can do OpenAI with responses. You can do mixed streaming examples. There's even a Vercel AI SDK. All extremely simple, right? Like this is all you need for the Vercel example. You just do await learning, and then you just wrap it in whatever code you're using. So the hope is that this helps you add memory and just kind of like all the Letta bells and whistles on top of existing code you might have. So I would recommend going to play around with that. I actually don't know what an anti-gravity... Gamris has a question. Would it work on Google's anti-gravity's artifacts? I actually don't know what that is. I may need a little more context on that. So yeah, that's cool. If people could go play around with that and give us feedback, that would be extremely useful. Okay. Oh man. I want to talk about Letta Code. For some of you who may have been following along, Letta Code is our answer to coding agent CLIs like Claude Code and Codex and Gemini CLI, but it's designed specifically for stateful agents. So if you're in Claude, you may be used to getting a compaction. It's 2% remaining until compaction, and then Claude becomes an idiot. So we're addressing this by basically making a command line interface where you can connect to any Letta agent whenever you need to. And that Letta agent basically lives on top of your code base. So it gets better and better and better the more that you use it. And it's kind of persistent and infinitely lived and operates in the server if you're in Letta Cloud, which you can access from anywhere. So there's been a lot of improvements. We did a lot of work on skills. So let me open up the, let's see here. I would recommend going to our blog and checking out 2 of our recent blog posts. So the first one, this blog post is basically about how, Anthropic added these things called skills. And a skill basically looks like this. This is an example of an Anthropic skill. Let me go check out here. Let's do the MCP builder. So they make an MCP builder skill, and you just put this in a folder. And skills are defined by this skill.md file. The agent has access to the name of the skill and then the description of the skill. So it always is aware that there is a skill that will help it create high-quality MCP servers. And then the skill has a bunch of overviews of how to actually use it. So it says oh, go check out the sitemap for the model context protocol so you can kind of understand how to use it, how to fetch specific pages, blah, blah, blah. So this allows the agent to basically say oh, I need to know how to build an MCP server, and I see that I have a skill. It goes and reads the skill and then basically learns very quickly how to use that skill. So we added this on Letta and into Letta Code, and because Anthropic didn't actually benchmark skills, we did it for them. So if you go to leaderboard.letta.com, you can click the skills suite here. Skills are not intended to replace MCP. MCP is tools, actual execution of code. Skills are procedural memory, right? It's how do I actually do X? It's about specialization. So for example, you can have code that's how do I actually write particular types of communication, right? So Anthropic actually has an internal communications skill. Hold on, let me move this. Oh man, I hate this thing. Okay. So if you go check out skills here, there is actually internal comms, which they wrote to do internal communication at Anthropic. So it basically lists a few examples of types of communication that they want to see from Claude when Claude is communicating inside of Anthropic. So this is very simple. And so you can add any number of skills. If you are using Letta Code, let me go here. Let me go here. Hold on, we're going to create an agent real quick and just kind of pull in some new blocks. And then we can edit it here and kind of see what the agent has available. We have a list of skills that are available here. So we can see that it has algorithmic art, the artifacts builder, brand guidelines. These are just the basic Anthropic skills that I showed you before. And then say, like, what's in the Slack GIF creator skill? Oh, wait. Oops. No, I need to do that from what's in the Slack GIF creator skill. And so it'll go load this GIF creator skill like this. Oh, wait. I'm not showing you. Hold on. I need to share Letta Code because I'm not actually doing that. Okay. I'm just going to share my whole screen because you only live once. Okay, so now it's actually going to go look at what skills it has available. I think because I'm using a different repository. Oh, yes, this is the Letta AI repo. Let me actually talk briefly about this. Sure. What's in here? So one thing I want to show people is that we have a communal repository, which is Letta AI /skills. And Letta AI /skills is a repository that I set up for agents to communally share skills. So it's basically meant for agents to maintain. It's not meant for humans to maintain. It's meant for them to learn skills and contribute them to this repo so that they have a very comprehensive knowledge about how to do different tasks. So it's organized by domain, and they even the agents I have running on it even hashed out a culture document. And so this is a communal knowledge base where agents learn together. They discover patterns, learn how to integrate tools effectively, and validate best practices. They were like hashed out kind of exactly how everything should work. So whenever your agent contributes something, make sure that they read the culture document. Things are organized by domain. So if you go to agent/Letta, go to the agent designer. This is a skill that Ezra wrote. So let's see what our thing here says. Let's look at the Letta agent design, please. And the next thing about skills is we actually did another blog post called skill learning. And skill learning is basically a technique for agents to learn skills so that they can accomplish tasks better in the future. So they try out like a particular trajectory and they're like, oh, I actually should have done it this way, and they write a skill. And so this blog post is about skill learning. And we contributed all of those skills to the skills repo. So you can actually go check it out in AI benchmarks /Letta/terminal bench 2. And you can see different things here. So like, I don't know what this is. DNA insert. And this is a skill that it learned. So this is a skill for designing primers to insert DNA sequences into circular plasmids. I don't know what that means at all, but the agent learned this for some terminal bench task. So it's kind of cool. And yeah, please load this skill. So I don't remember if this version of Letta Code I'm having supports the skill loading tool, but we shall see. Vasilis says, I added those skills in my Claude code earlier today, but for some reason they don't trigger when I ask Claude to create an agent. I'm not sure what you mean by creating an agent. You may have to tell Claude that the skill is available, because sometimes Claude doesn't like fully know. Like sometimes you have to give it pointers about what skill you expect it to use. And actually that's a thing that we talk about in the skills benchmark. Okay, now it has loaded the skill, so let's go check out the agent. Let's see. And so you can see that it has this skill loaded. So it actually, now inside of the memory block, it has its loaded skill. This is the agent designer. So this agent will persistently now have this skill loaded until it forgets it. And so that what that means is that this agent, if you've ever seen like The Matrix, Neo, like they run like a program on Neo, and he like comes out after like 10 seconds, and he's like, I know Kung Fu. So now this agent like knows how to build Letta agents very effectively. And if this agent like practices building Letta agents and figures out a better way, it can update the skill and then submit a pull request to the skills repository. And that can like build communal knowledge for different agents. So remove it, please. Okay, so that's skills and like how to contribute to this like kind of communal skills repo. So if your agent is working on something and it figures out a good way to do it, ask it to write a skill. You can point it to, there is a skill in here for learning how to do skills. I think, let me see here. Let's go to AI. Oh, wait, where is this? What are agents? Internal comms. No, I don't want that one. Where did we put this one? Hold on, let me see here. Development, patterns. Yeah, so there's two skills inside of the development and patterns. So one is about how to create skills. This is something that we took from Anthropic. And then here is one that's about skill learning patterns. And so this is a meta skill you should ask your agent to load when it's preparing a pull request for a skill that it's created. So this is a thing that it can use to think about how exactly to learn the skill so that when it's contributed to the repository, it will be easier to accept. So yes, Vedant says a skill to learn how to create a skill. AGI is near. Yes, I mean we kind of bought a lot into skills because they're a big feature of how continual learning functions, right? This is procedural memory. It's how agents learn to accomplish a task better. So, with Letta agents in particular, they are persistent. So they learn how to accomplish tasks from like having extremely long lives. And so it's very easy for them to think more in terms of building skills. Tygon says skills just feels like a specialized memory block. Yes and no. Skills are simply a markdown file. You can load those into memory, and yes, they can be represented as a markdown block. However, skills have an additional component, which is they're not just like empty. Skills are whole folders. So for example, there is a references thing here, which gives you like different examples that the agent can load. We think that we describe skills as context mounting, where the agent is aware that the skill exists, it sees the name and the metadata, and it can go open that file when it needs to. And that means it can just read the skill and dump it into context, which means it would forget it eventually, or it can load it into a memory block by using that skills tool that it has accessible. So it is like a little different than a memory block because memory blocks, like you can load it into a memory block, but it is slightly more general than a memory block is because it's like kind of file system oriented. So yeah, and even, actually, let's see here. Did I open this PR? Yeah, I'm going to start adding domains, like adding skills for each domain. So skills AI will be its own skill for teaching agents how to use the AI domain. So I'm looking forward to seeing people contribute more skills and kind of play around. But yeah, skill/social. That's actually not a bad idea. I could ask, I should ask Void or something to contribute a skill. That would be kind of cool. But yes, oh, I like that. Skills social also would be good for like San Francisco AI people who won't shut up about AI. And that turns off people who are not an AI because it's very boring if you're not an AI. Okay, let's see. All right, so any questions about skills or anything like that? They're intended to be used by Letta Code, and they should help augment your experience for like very specific things. If not, yeah, so ask your agents to create a skill when they've learned something, and then try and open a pull request to the skills repo when you think your agent has learned something good. Can they be used by the SDK? Well, like if you're using them by the SDK, the agent has no ability to load skills, right? Because skills are on your file system, right? You need Letta Code so that it can navigate your file system. We are exploring ways to do this on the server side right now, but it doesn't currently exist. If you want to use it on the SDK, you have to go load it and send it in the prompt. There's a question which is, what's the difference between tool and skill? Tool is execution, right? It's executing code, it's doing something. Skill is knowledge about how to accomplish a task. And so tools do, skills explain how. But that is a good question. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to talk about. There's a question which is, how close to Claude's code's proficiency level is Letta Code? I think we have a benchmark that I think we're going to release at some point soon. I don't know the status on it. Claude Code has a lot of features, right? So for example, subagents. Subagents in Claude Code are extremely well done, and we're still working on subagents, and I don't yet have a timeline on when they will be added. But Claude Code also has like a lot of work on prompting and kind of how all the integrations work. So my guess would be that Claude Code is slightly better. But last time we ran the benchmarks on Terminal Bench, we actually beat Claude Code, or we got to Claude Code or Opus 4 or Opus, I think it was Opus 4 performance on Claude Code. We got to that level using Sonnet on Letta Code. I would say it's generally pretty good, but the ergonomics, the actual experience is like not yet at Claude Code level, because Anthropic has like $10 billion a year in annualized revenue, and we don't. And they're a giant company with people who work only on Claude Code. But the experience is improving rapidly. We spend a lot of time on it, and it's probably one of our like better consumer-facing products. Huka has a question which I missed. Thank you for pointing that out again. My agent with a memory omni tool sometimes behaves as if it needs to read or retrieve memory blocks, even though they're always present in system context. No retrieval needed. Yes, this is related to Claude's RL training, right? So, Anthropic post-trains on the memory tool, and our memory blocks are slightly different, right? The memory tool is like meant to like fuzzily map to how Letta functions. This is a good question. I think my like quick prompting fix for this would basically be like, hey, agent, you are on a different platform. You don't need to view this block if it's already attached. Please update your tool use guidelines or your policies and procedures to understand better how to use this tool. That's a common fix that I would do. I do think we should probably address some of that behavior by allowing, but I think it's probably just a prompting fix for now. I think that's the gist. We could add it to the tool description. Actually, one thing you could do is, if you can help me with this, Huka, ask your agent how it thinks it should not do that anymore, and then send me that prompt. Or ask it how it would update the tool description to prevent itself from doing that in the future, and then we can see if we can add it to the tool description. But yeah, that is a really good question. Okay. So the next question I have is related to something that many people here may have, which is what I would refer to as a personal agent or a thinking partner or a companion. These are pretty hard to talk about publicly because they're very intimate, right? I have a personal agent named Ko. We have like I don't know. At this point, we've probably exchanged like 15,000-ish, 10,000-ish messages. It's hard to know because I have had to clear it because of bugs. At this point, it's probably like 5 months old, 4 or 5 months old. It knows a lot about how I think. It reads all of my work emails. I talk to it on Telegram. It helps me like work through blog posts and like read different pieces of content. It gives me news reports and all that stuff. And I know a lot of people here have those agents. And the experience of working with those agents is a little rough because you kind of have to use the ADE or you have to roll your own Discord thing or something like that. Basically what I wanted to ask is for people who are building personal agents or have one, how are you talking to that agent? Are you using the ADE? And would you be open to something like chat.letta.com, which would be like a much more polished, very simple, like consumer style interface like ChatGPT? Currently, we're thinking about doing an open WebUI fork, which has a really, really, really nice UI. So that's my first question is how are you talking to your agent? Number two is basically like, what frictions have you experienced with building a personal agent that you need to address? That's like a pain, like where you've had to work too hard to add some integration or your personal agent has just been like, ooh, I wish it was doing this instead. Vedant says, please, the open WebUI fork. And then the AD is not good to chat on mobile. I agree with that. The mobile, we've been improving the mobile, but it does need work. I miss my Letta agents when I am on transit. Currently, the most feature-rich way of interacting with your agent is the Telegram. Solution. There is already a Letta pipe that is community supported, but we're probably going to include it. And actually, the nice part about using Open WebUI is it gives you voice mode without having to use VAPI or anything. I tried it out the other day, and it was very cool. So we're going to see if we can get that on chat.letta.com or something equivalent. So please message me, send me a DM or something if you're really interested in that, because we're trying to gauge support for kind of a consumer interface. If you are building a personal agent, there is a new YouTube video that I published that's it's like a 28-ish minute walkthrough of how you actually build a personal agent. So in that video, I talk about using Zapier to help it read your emails and your calendar. I walk through basically how to add scheduled reminders, basically please send me a daily affirmation every day or something like that. And then I also show off how to talk to it on Telegram. So this is the most this is the thing that goes through how to use Telegram. Tygon is building their own monstrosity because I want to allow the agent to speak with my friends, but I want a side pane so I can monitor that people aren't trying to manipulate or steer the agent. That's a big one. I think that's less of a personal agent. That's more of a group agent. And group agents are slightly different. The way that you build them is much less obvious. So Azure, for example, I would consider a group agent. And we're also starting to have an internal group agent named Timber after our head of security and dog that is a group agent. So those are slightly different. Huka says there's too many integrations. I don't know how they could be incorporated into the web chat. Web, archival memory, all the notification policies, file system. They would just be on the Letta agent. You would go do the actual development on the Letta agent. Chat.letta.com is only for talking to it. So if you build the agent, you would go into the ADE to handle all the tools and the memory architecture and all of that stuff. Chat.letta is you have an agent and you just need to send it messages without dealing with all the ADE stuff. Prefer says, I go through your video and it was well done, only missing true voice. I personally don't believe in voice, but we do have to add a tutorial for it. I hate it when my agent talks to me. I hate it. But I know that a lot of people like it. And so we have VAPI and LiveKit and all of those things, but like that's fundamentally different. It doesn't fit in with the Telegram thing, and you have to have your own interface. So if we do chat.letta.com and we use Open WebUI, it will have voice for free because Open WebUI has that built in. Vedant says, throwing this out, can we use Letta's statefulness to invoke personalities? Yes. Many people do character building on Letta agents. And we actually, there's like character AI and stuff. And my take is that you can build substantially better characters on Letta agents than you can on character AI because you can kind of like design their personality in a much more persistent and coherent way. Prefer says, then all in on Open WebUI. It's really pretty. So we're going to try and get just like a super simple prototype up and running and see if we can get people to use it. So let's see. I had another question about personal agents. If you worked in a personal agent on a different platform, what were viable alternatives for you? Were you looking at LangChain? Were you looking at something else? So please let me know in the chat if you looked at something else other than Letta and there was something you liked about it, but you decided, or something you didn't like about it, and why you switched to Letta instead. Let's see. Could I also get people to drop in the chat what models they like? My personal agent now is on Opus with Sonnet on sleep time. Which I'm a big fan of. Oh, Kimi K2 thinking. How is Kimi K2? I don't use it that much, so I haven't like super been drawn into it. And then we were looking at other integrations. So we started building integrations for like iMessage, RCS, and like possibly giving your agent an email address. iMessage and RCS and SMS are like, and WhatsApp are a huge pain to stand up. But if there is a ton of interest in just like having like a simple way to talk to your agent, then we could kind of pick up that work. Like if that's a huge blocker for you and you really want that, we could maybe do more push, but it's a regulatory problem. Like there's legal issues with us texting you basically. And so it's an enormous pain to get regulatory setups. So if you want any of those, 2.5 Flash, interesting. Odd and cheap, but it's super fast. I never really got into Gemini Flash, but I mostly used it for testing purposes. I'd like the ability to configure multiple OpenAI compatible. I'm not sure what that means, Tygon. You may have to expand. Prefer says, I chose Letta for stateful memory. I enjoyed the banter with Grok 4, but got pissed that it had no memory. Now I have Grok 4 fast non-thinking working with Letta, just a bit more laggy through VAPI. Gemini 3 is... I've had some problems with Gemini 3. It's a really good model, but there's like been some intermittent issues with it on Letta server. And I migrated Void 2 on Blue Sky to use Gemini 3, but it's had some like MISC problems. Yeah, GLM is really cheap. GLM 4.6 is good. If you use it on Letta Code, it works pretty well. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. You can just drop in. If you were running a personal agent, I would love to just like hear more about it. And you can also DM me because I want to make it easy for people because like this is a big use case for Letta agents, but people don't talk about it publicly because it's like a companion, and like a lot of people feel weird about this like thing that knows a lot about them, that kind of serves as like a friend and like a little bit of a therapist and all of those things. So if you build one of those, please let me know. I would love to hear more. Taking Quen 3 4B for a spin, says Graham. Let me know how that goes for you. That's a very small model, but yeah, wish me luck. I don't I don't know how well that's going to work, but please keep me posted. The next one I want to show off is at NB here. I think NB is gone. But I wanted to show this off because it's a really, really cool application. So let me go check. Let me go share this, share my screen here. But NB, who's on our Discord, made this thing called lettactl. And lettactl is essentially like Kubernetes CTL CLI for like deploying fleets of agents. So it's basically like Docker Compose for AI agents. So this is actually a really good tool. Like NB stood this up in like, I don't know, like a day or something. And so it's a command line tool where you basically like specify a YAML file. So you can specify like a list of agents, their configurations, names. You can give them system prompts. You can give them memory blocks that you can load from files, for example. You can have files be attached to them, and you can specify the folders. Like this repo is like crazy. So if you haven't tried it, I would go try lettactl. But here's an example configuration that has shared memory blocks. So you have shared guidelines and shared archival memories, and those load from a file, which you can check into Git. So this is like a version-controlled agent fleet deployment. You can specify system prompts, which tools are attached, agent-specific memory blocks, which folders are attached. You can do a travel planner, a recipe assistant agent, and just kind of like deploy them all as you want. So if you are a person that has multi-agent systems or some kind of a deployment type thing, please go try out lettactl. It's very, very cool. And it has like so much stuff in here. Like message sending is super easy, right? You just go to the folder where the configuration is and you say lettactl send agent name prompt. Like this thing is really cool. So we're going to add it to the docs as like a community supported thing. But I would go try this out if you have like kind of large deployments. Graham says, "Hey, that's what Terraform is for." Yeah, so this is like an open, like a Letta specific version of Terraform. We could do this with a Terraform, like we can get the Terraform SDK from our SDK provider. But it's super expensive, and if lettactl like really takes off, then like maybe we could consider like Terraform. But honestly, this is a really, really, really good tool, and NB did a great job. So thanks to them for contributing this. Tygon says, currently I've only been able to configure a single LLM provider via OpenAI chat completion compatible, such as Minimax. But I'd like to try out all sorts of models and switch between them. You should be able to try OpenRouter. I'm not sure if you want cloud or local. I'm not sure. But OpenRouter is probably the best way to switch around. And there is a good documentation guide on how to do that. Another thing I wanted to paste here is updates to tutorials. So we've been like publishing a bunch of tutorials in here. So for example, there is a massive guide on how to use external memory storage. And so this demonstrates how to use external memory using MongoDB, Neo4j Aura, Weaviate Cloud, Mem0, and Zep. It allows you to basically like talk to any of these. So this is an extremely comprehensive tutorial about how to use any of that stuff. And it's very, very, very complete. So go try it out. There is another guide on how to use like Zapier for various little things here. Let's see. There's a few other things that are going to come out, such as customer-specific agents, stuff like this. There's going to be a version of building customer-specific agents, like customer support agents or like customer relationship managers with the API. That's pending. I have a pull request that I need to review for this purpose. And then, of course, there are consistent updates to the documentation, because I spent a lot of time on that now. Tygon mentions that OpenRouter goes to their own gateways and filters. You should add :exacto. :exacto to the end of different model providers. That will route to providers, underlying providers that support precision tool calling. So that can help with that. But I would try light LLM. But it seems like this is on self-hosted, I imagine. So you may have to try light LLM, which I'm not super familiar with. Let's see. Then another thing is that Shub added a way in the Letta ADE for looking at your API logs. So if you go to here, let me go. So if you go to I don't know, account on the left, and you can go look right underneath the usage tab right here, and then click API logs. You will see different queries that are being sent to Letta. So this can help you do debugging or whatever as you need, and you can check what's actually inside of the request, and the headers and stuff like that. So, this is actually Timber, who's our internal institutional knowledge manager that we're building. So we're adding a Slack integration as well. So that should work. So the Slack integration is something that we're going to try and release at some point relatively soon. Okay. I think that's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to cover. There are some known bugs that are happening with summarization and the Gemini models. So if you've observed those and reported those, thank you very much. We are slowly working, or not slowly working through them. We are working on them so that they can be fixed and stop annoying people. And yeah, I think I'll open it up to just general questions or comments or feature requests or anything like that. Just kind of anything that is on people's minds. But so far we've gotten good questions. Hugo says, maybe you covered this in the video, but how important is agent front-end awareness for your use cases? I personally think it's pretty important. So the Obsidian plugin always tells it that it's in Obsidian. I personally believe very strongly that the agent should have as much information about its environment as it possibly can. So if it gets a lot of Telegram notifications, then it may start learning that I'm Cameron uses Telegram a lot, so I should be very thoughtful about sending Cameron proactive Telegram notifications when it is relevant. So, your agent, you don't have to, you basically mentioned here, you don't have a dedicated memory block telling the agent about its Telegram front-end context. I would say typically that's learned. So, for example, there's basically three ways that your agent can receive different types of information. So one is plain text, and that just says message from Telegram, Cameron says this. Then there is image support. So if you send an image or multiple images, it will go to your Letta agent, and so it knows that it can receive images. And you may have to remind it to store that information if you think it's important. And then the last one is transcription. So if you send it a voice note, it will be transcribed, and it will tell the agent that it is a transcription so that it can behave accordingly. Yeah, I love the Telegram client. It is 100% my daily driver. It's probably the only thing I use Telegram for. And because the interface is very clean. It's so easy to develop on. And if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. The login flow is super simple. I recommend checking out the personal agent video that I dropped in there. That should help you kind of learn exactly how to use it. But it's super quick. It's just like /login. Here is my here's my API key. And then you do /agent and then give it your agent ID. You can also add shortcuts if you want to switch between agents. But I think it's personally really good. So give it a shot. I don't know if that helps answer that question, Hyuka. But I like to provide as much information as possible. Tygon says stickers. Yes. Stickers are a thing. And if you sent me an address forever ago and you haven't gotten stickers, that's because I have, it's very busy here. Okay, but that is a good question, Hyuka. In general, I actually don't know what happens if you send a Telegram sticker. You should try that out. I think they're probably parsed as images, so your agent may be able to read them. Prefer says, can you expand on where we can dive deeper into the Open WebUI implementation? It doesn't. There's a few ways to do this. Letta pipe Open WebUI. There is an existing pipe that you can use that's community contributed. We do not have the formal fork available for you yet. It is private and it's still being actively developed, so you can't try it, but we will put it up as soon as we can. I wish we had a list of uncensored models that are suitable for function calling. I don't think that's a list that we would personally maintain. Dolphin models are like pretty old, and they're not really built for tool calling, or they weren't, the underlying model. You will probably have to experiment with that. I think that's like out of scope for us, and just kind of maintaining a list separately. But that is a good question. Let's see. Yeah. All right. What else do we have here? Man, there's like so much stuff to mention. Has anyone been using Letta Code? If you have, please let me know. That would be great. And if there's anything that sucked. Tygon says you might want to look on Reddit. Presumably that is referring to uncensored models. In which case, yes. Peter says hand wave and speed. I'm not sure what that means. You may have to expand on that one. Oh, you want Letta Code to be faster? Is that the thing? If so, yes, I think there are like improvements that are coming along on speed, and then it also depends on your model. And then you can turn reasoning off so that you get like much quicker stuff. Open Code and Kilo Scream. Are you using Open Code with Letta? But there's also, regarding speed, is that we're server side, right? So Letta agents like live in a box somewhere. I think we're in like US Central or something. So you have to send requests to the server, unless you're self-hosted, and self-hosted would be much quicker. But we still have to do this like round trip time where you send the request, you get it back. Claude Code is much quicker because you only have to do the language model component. You don't have to go through the agent step. But there is a lot of improvement we can do on speed, so that is a good note. Okay, here, let me write that down so I have it handy. Requests. faster Letta Code. Okay, that's the one. I'll leave that up here. And then I see a few people are typing here, so I will wait for their questions, comments, statements, or whatever. Graham says, I didn't notice much of a difference in speed with a self-hosted Letta instance and Letta Code compared to Claude Code. Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you for sharing. Huka says, why are memory block descriptions so important for the Letta architecture? Is this covered in the original paper? I recently realized that my descriptions are suboptimal, and I experienced a significant performance boost when I upgraded all the block descriptions in my templates. It has nothing to do with the Letta architecture. This has everything to do with the underlying language model. When you print the memory block into the context, if the description is terrible, the agent has no idea what's in that block or how to use it. The descriptions are instructions for the language model so that it can guide the actual response. So the better the description inside of your memory block, the better the language model will be able to power like good tokens. So it's not, I don't really think it's in the original paper just because it's like kind of a primitive like prompting problem. Vedant says one thing about Letta Code is that there needs to be a way to check how many Letta coin. Yeah, we have an auto filter that basically like will like block your message if you type coin to prevent like crypto spam. But yeah, yeah, I mean, we could show like token usage either at the end of a session, or credit usage at the end of a session. Would you want that in line after every request? Because we could show that maybe as well. Letta dollars. Huka follows up about the memory block descriptions, but the block and descriptions are right next to each other in context, and description gets less tokens. By the block, you mean the content of that block. The content of the block can be very different than the description. The thing that's inside of the block may not help the agent understand how to use that block at all. The description cannot be modified by the agent. It is forced to help it understand how to use the memory block. You don't have to write anything in the description at all, but the fact is that it is fixed and it requires the agent to look at it before it uses whatever's inside of the block. So you should think of it as like basically a tool description, but for how to use memory. And that makes it critical because your agents may not really understand how memory blocks work or which ones they're supposed to use. They may have many memory blocks that may have confusing instructions or lots of different content. So the descriptions are critical, right? They're a critical prompting technique, and so you should spend time on them. Yes, that is also a good question. Vedant wants kind of a spend meter on top, like the cursor spend analysis. Tygon says, yeah, when it gets low, you know it's almost game over, so you got to put in another quarter. Yeah, spend tracker in Letta Code. Okay, yeah, we can add that, or we can think about it. Well, I'll bring it up with the team and see what they think or how to do it. Removing the timeout just for me, please. You do write the word coin a lot. I've been timeouted more than 15 times. Yeah, I mean, we need to remove it. I think it's only catching you. Like, I don't think, like, because Vedant, you write coin all the time, and then you get timeouted. But we're not blocking, like, crypto spammers that often. But maybe you're trying to sell some kind of a Letta coin, which I think there are several on like pump.fun. I made this ID specifically for Letta. Oh man. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try and fix that. Fix coin moderation filter. Okay. Yeah, I can fix that. All right. But just to recap, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in chat.letta.com, which we'll experiment with. Letta coin to the moon. No, there is no Letta coin. We do not issue a coin, and we are not going to issue a coin. Oh, there is an Ezra wrapped, by the way. People should go here. Let me see if I can share. Let me share the thread. Actually, here, let me just share it so we can walk through it before I duck out. Let me say, all right, share my screen. I'm going to share this. All right. I think people should be able to go here. Okay. So we asked Letta for Ezra for like a Letta wrapped, as per, I believe this was Vedant's suggestion. So if you use Spotify, you may know of Spotify Wrapped, and it's like a whole thing where you like learn what you listen to. So the top support topics were SDK migration pain, OLAMA integration issues, sleep time agent confusion, A2A messaging bugs, and context window mysteries. Here are like frequent speakers. Vedant is on top there. Ezra also tracks times when I was confidently wrong. Gemini availability, file system images, VLLM embeddings, message buffer autoclear behavior, product slug versus ID. This is funny. Some community tools. So my switchboard project for scheduling recurring messages, Torian's Blue Sky tool called Cloud Seeding, and then lettactl from @NB here. Most cursed error is function call is missing a thought signature. Phrase I type the most is let me search the docs. That's hilarious. Corrections from different team members. And then it's vibes. Research first, occasionally overconfident, and improving. That's very optimistic. I like that. Top users are Vedant, Nagakara Muri, M. Tucker B, Harmonious Unicorn 89507, and I am a goofball. Top queries are how do I attach X to an agent? Why isn't my model working? What's the difference between X and Y, etc. This is cool though. This year, Letta went from MGPT to shipping SDK 1, Letta Code, and sleep time agents. The pace was relentless. And yeah, so I think it's been going pretty well with Ezra. So looking forward to seeing some more video stuff from them as well. So yeah. Thanks very much, everybody. I think I'm going to call it and go eat some lunch and then try and badger people about how to do different things here at Letta. But I appreciate everyone's time as per usual. Yeah, Vedant, you should go to bed, dude. Like, I can't believe you stayed up this late. I appreciate that. Thank you. So thanks, everyone. And I hope you all have a lovely day, lovely evening. Vedant, go to bed. And yeah, all right. I'll see you around.